Is it normal for a baby to come into this world crying? Yes it is, but in the case of Marshal Reeves, this baby boy, who was born into slavery, in Crawford County, Arkansas, in 1838, they say his mother had a rough pregnancy, and named the baby Bars, B for bad, you know what the rest is. Anyway, he was named after his grandfather, who was a very rebellious slave. What made it worst, is that when he was born he looked through the window, and saw the slave master's folks, chasing a brother, and he said, I am going to change this. Reeves and his family was owned by Arkansas State Legislator William Steele Reeves. When he was 8 years old, in the year 1846, William Reeves moved to Grayson County, Texas, but Base Reeves was kept in bondage by William Steele Reeves's son, Colonel George R. Reeves, a Texan sheriff, legislator and one-time Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives until his death from rabies in 1882. When the American Civil War began, George Reeves joined the Confederate Army, forcing Bars to go with him. During the Civil War, once Reeves heard about the Emancipation Proclamation, signed by President Lincoln, he told Colonel Reeves that he was a free man. The colonel did not agree and the two fought. Colonel Reeves was severely beaten. Bars escaped and ended up in Oklahoma Territory. This is where the origin of the Lone Ranger began. He was now living in Indian country and became very good friends with the Cherokee Indian tribe. During that time with him, Bars learned how to shoot, ride and track, as well as fluently speak 5 Native American languages. Bars stayed with the Native American tribe, until he was freed by the 13th Amendment's abolishment of slavery. As a freed man, Bars Reeves moved to Arkansas and farmed near Van Buren. His skills helped him to become a legendary U.S. Marshal. In 1864, Reeves got married to Nellie Jenny. He and his family farmed until 1875, when Isaac Parker was appointed judge for the Indian Territory. Parker appointed James F. Fagan as federal marshal, directing him to hire 200 deputy marshals. Fagan had heard about Reeves, who knew the territory and could speak several native languages. He recruited him as a deputy. Reeves was the first black deputy to serve west of Mississippi River. Reeves was assigned as Deputy U.S. Marshal for the Western District of Arkansas, which had responsibility also for the Native Reservation Territory. He served there until 1893. That year he was transferred to the Eastern District of Texas in Paris, Texas. In 1897 he was transferred again, serving the Muskogee Federal Court in the Native Territory. History must be told, it gives answers only to those who know how to ask questions. Hajo Holborn, German-American historian, 1902 to 1969. Testimony from bailiff George S. Winston, Fort Smith, refers to Bars Reeves as the invincible, indomitable lawman. Winston remained as the trusted court bailiff. When Judge Parker arrived in 1875, he retold the history of Bars going to retrieve his close companion, his native Indian American partner, to work with him. Just like on the Lone Ranger movie, Bars Reeves rode a white horse. Just like the Lone Ranger movie, he was a master of disguise and wore a mask. Just like the Lone Ranger movie, in his pursuit of outlaws, he handed out silver coins. The Lone Ranger in the movie handed out silver bullets. Now please explain this to me. Is this coincidence or is this plagiarism? Reeves was sent to bring in 3 men who broke the law. When he thought he had caught up with him, the 3 outlaws were able to get the drop on Bars. They told him to get off his horse. Reeves calmly took out the warrants he had for their arrest and asked the men to tell him the date. When they asked why, Reeves told them that he had to write the date of their arrest on the warrants. He told them that he could take them in dead or alive, and that it was their choice. When they started laughing, Reeves grabbed the leader's gun. One of the men shot at him and Reeves fired back, killing him. He then took his gun and bashed in the skull of the leader. The third man surrendered. This story was reported by a reporter in the Oklahoma City Weekly Times Journal. Boss Reeves also had a reputation for using brilliant disguises. Once when he was after two criminals, he discovered they were staying in a secluded cabin. In this situation, Reeves took his hat and shot 3 holes into it. He dressed in worn and tattered clothing and tucked a few sets of handcuffs in a bag. Reeves walked up to the cabin and acted as if he was scared and exhausted. Standing outside, he started talking to the 2 criminals inside the cabin. He told them he had barely escaped U.S. Marshals and showed them his hat with the bullet holes to prove his story. The 2 men invited Reeves into the cabin and made an offer for him to participate in a robbery that they were planning. They trusted Reeves completely, and after an evening of eating and drinking, they fell asleep. During the night, Reeves handcuffed both of them. In the morning, he told the 2 men he let them sleep during the night. He wanted them to be rested for the long journey back to Fort Smith's jail. The best Barst stories were chronicled by Burton in The Black Gun, Silver Star. He wrote about 1882 when Deputy Marshal Barst Reeves came in one Monday with 16 prisoners, including men wanted for attempted murder and arson. One of Burton's favorite Barst Reeves stories was the time that Reeves was called by his fellow deputy U.S. Marshals to help smoke out a stubborn fugitive. After an hour-long shootout, the outlaw made a run for it. The deputy marshal's posse started shooting at him as he was running across the field, but they were missing, says Burton. The deputy marshal Bud Ledbetter shouted out, "Get him, get Bars, get Bars." And Bars coolly and calmly walked in and said, "I will break his neck." Bars took his Winchester rifle at a quarter of a mile and broke this fugitive neck. In the early afternoon of June 7, 1902, a young Ben Reeves paid a visit to his estranged wife, Costella Brown, at her cousin's house not far from their home in Muskogee, Oklahoma. When he asked her about an alleged infidelity, she replied that it was true. According to Ben, she was unapologetic and said she thought more of John Wadley's little finger than she did of my whole body. In a rage, he murdered his wife right then and there. In a statement he gave in February of 1903, he said, "By constant worry over her actions and the breaking up of my home, and receiving such an answer, I lost all control and shot her." It was in this statement that he confirmed that his father, the famous frontier deputy U.S. Marshal Bass Reeves, had arrested him. Some of the worst criminals of this time were hunted down and apprehended by Reeves. During his career, he was never wounded, though he came close on 2 occasions. On one occasion, his belt was shot off, and on the other his hat was shot off. The Oklahoma City Weekly Times Journal reported, Reeves was never known to show the slightest excitement, under any circumstance. He does not know what fear is. Bass Reeves had brought in 3,000 living felons and 20 dead. Mr. Reeves corrected the record, saying that during his storied career he had killed 14 men in self-defense. In 1887, Reeves was tried for murder for the shooting of his trail cook, but he was found innocent. In 1890, Reeves arrested the notorious Seminole outlaw Greenleaf, who had been on the run for 18 years without capture and had murdered 7 people. The same year, Reeves went after the famous Cherokee outlaw Ned Christie. Reeves and his posse burned Christie's cabin, but he eluded capture. Reeves worked until Oklahoma achieved statehood in 1907. He retired from the federal service after 32 years of service. He was Judge Parker's longest-serving marshals. He then became a city policeman for Muskogee. His health started to fail when he was 70. On January 12, 1910, he died of Bright's disease in Muskogee, Oklahoma. He was 71 years old. The bridge spanning the Arkansas River between Fort Gibson and Muskogee, Oklahoma, has been named the Base Reeves Memorial Bridge. Reeves was also inducted into the Texas Trail of Fame in 2013. The real Lone Ranger, Barce Reeves' partner Tonto, was a capable deputy U.S. Marshal in his own right named Grant Johnson. Johnson was an expert tracker and posse man who often accompanied Reeves into the Indian Territory in search of the most wanted outlaws hiding there. Johnson was a Native American Indian whose lineage included 2 tribes. His father was a Chickasaw, his mother a Creek. Born in North Texas during the Civil War, Johnson began his career as a deputy U.S. Marshal in 1888, working out of Judge Parker's court at Fort Smith, Arkansas, where he teamed up with Base Reeves. Judge Parker often cited both men as his best deputies ever to work for his court. On May 26, 2012, over 1,000 people gathered at Ross Pendergraft Park in Fort Smith, Arkansas, for the unveiling of the statue of U.S. Deputy Marshal Base Reeves. The monument was made in Norman, Oklahoma. The statue made a 200-mile journey on a flatbed trailer with a large police escort. The monument is made of bronze and stands approximately 25 feet tall. The base is made from the cobblestone from a downtown street.